Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paradox Untold Stories from Athletic Directors. I am Dr. Danielle Lapointe, and my co host is Dr. Dustin Smith. And today we have Kelly Lewis with us. How are you today, Kelly?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So excited to have you here. Um, Before we get started, I want to thank Ticket Spigot, who is our sponsor and the official digital ticketing provider of the NIAAA. So thank you to them for making all of our episodes possible. So, Dustin, how are you doing over there today?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, magnificent, radiant, whatever you want to say, in Greenwood, Arkansas. Just living the dream here, and excited because we've had several guests from the NIAAAU cohort, and this today's guest is no different. Kelly's been in that, but what I like is we're actually breaking down a wall. We haven't been to North Carolina in this podcast, so Kelly is our maiden voyage here. So we get to dive in with somebody who's got a wealth of experience as an athletic director, been an administrator for over 20 years, and as I said, he resides in North Carolina. We'll talk about that in a little bit. He's in the NIAAAU cohort. Some would question the mentors that are in that cohort, but Kelly signed up for that. I'm excited to have Kelly on the podcast today. Kelly, how are things for you out in North Carolina?
Things are well. Things are well. We're still hot and humid, but we're cranked up and we're full steam ahead right now.
Now we've had a guest from South Carolina. Can you confirm or deny that North Carolina is better than South Carolina?
Whoa, he
Uh,
went there.
yeah. Well, I can confirm that South Carolina pays their coaches and their athletic directors a lot better than North Carolina. So that may give them an edge all by themselves. But North Carolina is a pretty good state as well.
Well, let's talk about who Kelly Lewis is. I always like to ask the question of, tell me what the resume doesn't tell us about Kelly. We can talk about you being an administrator, talk about you living in North Carolina, and that you've been part of the NIAAAU cohort. But tell us the things that make Kelly Lewis outside of this profession of athletic administration.
Well, that's easy. That's going to be my family. I have 4 children, all girls, twins in the middle. So, and they're all close in age. My oldest is 25, and the youngest is 22 now. So you can imagine what that was like when they were little, all running around the house together at the same time. And we couldn't play man, so we had to end up playing zone. Man was out of the question. So we played a lot of zone defense. So spending time with them, and my wife Catherine, she brought them to the football games on Friday night, and you give them a Snickers and run them around on the gator at the end of a football game, and they were happy as they could be. So, and now I like cooking. That's something that a lot of people probably don't know. And then since I moved down here to the coast recently, I picked up surf fishing. So I like to get out and go fishing as often as I can. We put in those hours, but a lot of times when I leave the office, I like to leave the office and just come home and spend time with my wife and uh, FaceTime with my children. They're out of the house now, but get together with them anytime we can.
Now, when you say cooking, there's some legendary barbecue out of North Carolina. Let me ask you this: is your barbecue sauce vinegar based or not vinegar based?
It is vinegar based.
Okay.
It's definitely vinegar based.
And
Yes.
no other barbecue sauce matches that, right? That's the only way to do it.
It doesn't, because I went to college at East Carolina, and East Carolina barbecue sauce is the good old vinegar sauce. So that's still the sauce of choice.
I guess, should I say, do you put coleslaw on your barbecue sandwich, or is the coleslaw just a side item?
I like it as a side.
Okay.
My wife likes to put it on there, but I'd rather just have sauce and meat on my sandwich.
I'm with you. You're my kind of man, Kelly. I like to hear that. So we talk about being in North Carolina. Paint on a map for those geographically challenged exactly where you're at. You talk about being on the coast, but kind of paint the picture of where you are in North Carolina.
So the easiest probably is if you get on Interstate 40 and you go east. When it ends, you'll be in Wilmington, North Carolina. So I-40 ends in Wilmington. So we're about 2 hours east of Raleigh, and we're 2 counties up from South Carolina. We're close to Horry County, which is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. A lot of people know where that is. Um, so we're closer to South Carolina border, obviously, than we are Virginia. So we're down towards the southeastern part of North Carolina. But I-40 ends right in New Hanover County.
So as you talk about Raleigh, and I'm gonna ask Danielle this question: do you know what's significant about Raleigh? They call it the Triangle. Do you know why they call it the Triangle?
Enlighten me, Dustin.
Well, North Carolina, Duke, and NC State are all within 7 miles of each other, right there in the make a triangle.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. Yeah.
I'm here to just try to enlighten you. I'm trying to broaden your horizons a little bit, trying to season you a little bit.
When you need to go scuba diving, though, you just let me know.
Yeah, I'm out on it. I don't know. Do you scuba dive, Kelly? Have you done any of that?
Do what?
Hey, do you scuba dive? Have you done any of that?
No. I'm gonna keep my head above water as much as I can.
Says every AD ever.
Yeah, not just scuba diving, just as an AD.
Right. In all aspects.
See, in Arkansas, we don't have. I mean, you scuba dive, but they call it noodling. They go fishing without a pole. They just go down and trap catfish in holes and
right
with their hands.
Right. Yeah.
Different form of scuba diving.
Yes, sir.
Just a little bit.
So,
well,
go ahead.
No, I was saying to inform with keeping your head above water. You know, is there any times when you've had to, you know, try to keep your head above water? Do you have any of those crazy times where you're like, what is happening? Is there like a camera on me?
Right. Well, in 20 years, you probably have a collection of those. But one that I remember kind of vividly was my first year as an AD. We go into the school and the principal, his office doors open, his radio's on his desk, but he's nowhere to be found. And it's during school day, so we're going to school, and all of a sudden they call over the intercom, ask the principal to come to the office where the principal's at, and we're looking, and it come to find out he was out on the softball field. So out is tied to any type of event, any type of somebody missed somebody. I was always going to involve athletics. It never fails. So he's out on the softball field, and he said that he was attacked by some students, by some gang members, that type of thing. But we come to the end of this, and this was he inflicted this on himself. Apparently, he was getting into some trouble with the central office. Some people accused plagiarism and that type of thing, and so he was trying to find a way out. And so, but I'm saying, why are you calling me? I'm just the first year athletic director. Says, well, we need you to come out to the softball field and help us. And so they called me out there, and that's where he was out there on the softball field, faking his injuries and everything like that, you know. And it's getting ready basketball season, and I cancel a basketball game because they rush him, and he's got police guarding his hospital because he thinks it's a gang thing. And so I get fussed at because I canceled a basketball game. Well, nobody gave me, there's not in the AD instruction manual what to do when your principal fakes injuries and says he got attacked by gang members. And so
you missed that chapter?
Yeah, right. Missed that one. So, you know, it wasn't in the Cliff Notes version. Yeah. So I was like, really? You're asking me about canceling a game when, you know, the principal that you hired, he just hired me. So that was the first one, and that was my very first year as an athletic director. I'd only been on the job a few months when that happened.
I have so many questions.
Yeah. Fire away.
So you were just like, you just got like roped into this like scandal, more or less, because this person decided the softball field was a good idea,
Yeah,
a good place for this encounter to occur. So you kind of got roped into this, but oh my goodness, what a mess to kind of start off with. Like you have
right,
no control over it, yet it directly affects you, which is a
right.
very common theme with all of our stories that we have.
Mhm.
And now you're canceling a basketball game for and you're taking the heat for that when you're just trying to keep it together with
Right,
your principal.
right. Maintain calm and order. The assistant principals, they didn't know what to do. They were new. They had been at middle schools. At least I had had experience teaching and coaching at the high school level, so knew what it was at the high school level. But they didn't know what to do. They didn't know. You go to your admin for advice, and they're like, "Well, I don't know. What do you want to do?" I was like, "Well, I don't know what you want to do." It's like, that's what it felt like. Nobody wanted to make a decision. So I went with it.
Now, well, and also it's also important to remember a common theme that we hear is you were making these decisions based off of the limited information you had at the time. You
Right,
only knew X and Y at the time,
right, right.
maybe just X at this point, actually. So, oh, how did this get discovered? Like, this could not
um,
have been an easy year for you.
well, because one of the first things they do is they go try to find the video, and that was back when the video was still stored on VHS. There was none. So he had started the day by tape by taking all the tapes out of the cameras and turning the cameras off. So once they dug into it, they found out that he did all of this himself, planned it, organized it. Said he got drugged to the softball field, but he didn't have any scuff marks on his shoes or anything. The softball field was about 300 feet from the back of the school. It was quite a ways, and no video and previous reports of plagiarizing and sending stuff to the faculty, and his injuries were like he looked like he took his car keys and kind of scratched his forearms and stuff, and just like superficial stuff. And I'm just and threw himself against the backstop to kind of like like a rib injury, like he got punched in the ribs or something. So it turned out to be a real wild, crazy mess altogether.
It sounds to me like this is a 2020 episode waiting to happen. But
Yeah.
uh, and beside of that, when you canceled the game, did you know that these were fake injuries at the time, or was
No,
it just information
no.
that they rushed him to hospital because they thought
Right,
it?
right. Because the game was the next day. I mean, they were still trying to sort through everything. This didn't come out until probably a few weeks later, after they did all the investigation and stuff like that. But the game was the next day, and people were just like, they were all worried, and there's going to be retaliation, and there's going to be gang members at the basketball game. So you're thinking about, you're always thinking about safety. So you're thinking about what's the best decision for the entire school and everybody that's going to be involved. But they were like, well, you shouldn't have done that because we wanted to try to make things, we wanted to try to keep them normal. I'm like, there's nothing normal about what just happened. How do you want me to go to normal? Yeah, yeah,
Well,
because if it, I'm just like, yeah, no, we're going to be abnormal today.
well, and whether I know you didn't know that it wasn't real, but it's still not okay that it wasn't real. There's clearly some issues that needed to be
Right,
taken care of
right.
before, you guys kind of proceed. And man, that is a rough first year. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that he didn't stay in the principal position for long.
Yeah, no, that was yeah, he never even came back on campus after.
Yeah.
So now
Somebody
you're
came
trying,
and somebody came and got his stuff for him.
I would say you're trying to navigate your first year as being an AD
Right.
almost, at the helm by yourself.
Right. Yeah, with no principal, because then they let the APs run it, and then once they went through the investigation, well, they didn't bring an interim in. They didn't bring a new principal in until January or February. Um, and so I was just more or less telling the other APs, hey, this is what we got going on. This is what we're doing. These are the games this week. Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? I'm going to be here. I'm going to be there. Because, like I said, they were inexperienced as well at the high school level, um, and still trying to figure it out themselves. And the school was only 3 years old. The school had only been around. That was only the third year that the school had been open as well. So everything was new to everybody.
So at any point did you consider, I'm going to get out of this athletic directing business if I'm getting scolded for this, for trying to make a decision, keep people safe,
Right.
but my main principal faked everything.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was fortunate that I only had to endure that 1 year. I was able to go back where I was coaching, which was Independence. So I was able to go back and be the athletic director at Independence. So only endured that 1 year there.
Yeah. I don't know if I couldn't have got out of there fast enough.
No, right. I know.
And I feel like you're touching upon an important thing that we haven't really touched upon too much yet is, we talk about parents a lot. We talk about coaches who've made, silly mistakes, stupid mistakes. But you kind of went on the other end of this, and your boss, your admin, your direct supervisor is the one making these silly, stupid mistakes. So that's a really important part that I don't think we've touched upon because we have two ends to our world, right? ADs have two ends to your world. You have the parents, your coaches, your athletes, but you also have your admin, your district, kind of also telling you what to do and giving you guidance, or maybe not. Maybe there is no guidance because they don't have one because they were beat up on the softball field by themselves. I mean, either way, but there's a lot that goes into an AD's everyday job for sure.
So I got this question for you, Kelly. Have you or did you have a conversation with said principal after this event? Was there any communication at all between you and him?
No, there was none. There may have been a few text messages. Hope you're doing well. Hope everything's okay. But then as the situation unfolded, it was like nobody communicates with him at all. Myself, the admin team, teachers. It was, the superintendent came to a faculty meeting and told us this is what's going on. This is what's going to happen, and he will not be returning. And so once it came out, I guess the embarrassment took over, and so there was no more communication to him with anybody associated with the school.
Well, what about when you got called out to the softball field and you were like the first person at the scene of the crime? Like, how did that go down? Like, you were just out there, like, are you okay?
They called me on the radio, and I'm hustling out there, and one of the secretaries, his secretary, was out there, and so they're kind of moving fast, so I'm kind of hustling a little bit and see what's going on, and I pass her, and we get out there, and then the SRO's close behind, and he's laying there in the dugout, and he's just doing that heavy breathing, like you're in pain. And he wasn't communicating very well, and so then it's you call 911 and you're doing all those things, but and then it's just like superficial scratches on his arm. It's like he took his car keys, like I said, and but everybody's just saying this is the principal of the school. What in the world's going on? And the school was only 3 years old. And so it brought some division amongst some different high schools, and there was some gang activity at the school. So his story could have been credible because there were several validated gang members at the school, and there was known that there was tension amongst him and some of those members, and so that's what he created when teachers had started calling his bluffs on stuff that he was sending out and not giving credit to the authors, and he chose this path to try to get out of it. It was very, very awkward, and I guess that was maybe my 13th year in education, and it's just like it was a very weird experience.
When you think about the detailed plan that he went through, I mean, taking out all the VHS tapes and making sure that didn't work. And then, I mean, the wherewithal to think, okay, I got to act like there's a rib injury, so I'm going to throw myself up against the wall.
Right.
I mean, the thought process to make all that, left his radio on his desk. I mean, there was all kinds of steps that he went through to carry out this plan. And for me, I can't get in that mindset to say, okay, it'd be a whole lot easier just to say, I'm not going to work here anymore.
Right?
I mean,
I was just gonna say, I
Exactly.
don't know if plagiarism would ever make me beat myself up. Like, I don't
Yeah.
feel
Uh,
like that's anywhere
exactly.
near close to
I
what.
just that's why we were all. That's why I was so awkward and strange. I mean, like, who does this? This actually happened. This was real. Yeah, very strange year. Mm.
and that concerns you because he was trusted to take care of kids,
Right.
to take care of a staff, to take
Mhm.
care and lead a district or high school. I mean,
Right.
he was in charge of a lot of things, and to
Right.
think that this mind could or this person could get to this point
Hmm.
and think that this was the best option for him. That just blows my mind.
Right. Absolutely.
It's supposed to be a role model.
Yeah.
Like, just, oh my
And I
gosh.
try to
And
put myself in Kelly's shoes. I mean, I walk out there on that scene thinking, okay, we found him. He's got some issues. All right, let's get him taken care of. Let's get him treated. You don't know all that you
Right.
found out now. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's just simply, hey, let's react, take care of him. Let's do what's safest and best. And that's probably to be not have a game. And then now, a week or two later, when the word comes out, you got to look back and think,
Yeah.
Moses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They had him. They had him in the. We went to the hospital after school that day. A group of us, admin team. They had a surname that wasn't his name. They had him in a room. They had a police officer outside his room because of the whole gang activity thing, and nobody could go see him. We talked to his wife in the waiting room, but he wasn't even registered under his own name. It was weird. Yeah, you're thinking this is like, you know, real gang issue, and there's a real serious threat to him and his family. And then it's just like, oh yeah, no, my bad.
oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
I
question is
plagiarized.
not just the threat to him and his family, but from your chair,
Right,
could there be a threat to your students or to your
Right.
coaches? I mean,
right,
is there something there, and you just acted off the knowledge that you had at that point and made a decision based on that? And even in hindsight, I don't think you made the wrong decision because you reacted with the
Right.
decision
Yeah.
or the information that you had.
information
So
at the time. Hmm.
I think it's just crazy our society will get mad at somebody for making a decision based on the information that they have at the time.
Right,
mhm.
right, exactly.
And so I had two questions for that. One, was there, because of what you're saying, like police were at the hospital room, it wasn't using his name. Were there like charges that followed with this? Was there like real legal trouble that followed him because of this?
I think so, but that became so far removed from us,
Yeah.
and there was no more communication. They all, you get the proverbial, it's an ongoing investigation, and then when the investigation ended, they told us that it had ended, and then they looked to put in a new principal. So, but I do
Mhm.
believe that there was some things that came out of it, and he also, on side note, he was also a preacher at a small church as well. So I think when all this happened, he removed himself from education and focused more on the ministry. And I think he ended up pastoring a church up in Virginia. I think he was from Virginia. But yeah,
This
no,
whole
there was no more communication from him.
this whole time I would have been like, why couldn't you pick the auditorium? Like, why did you have to pick the softball field? Why did you
Right,
have to do an athletic facility?
right,
Why
right. Of
couldn't
course,
you
yeah,
just go to
exactly.
the cafeteria
Hmm.
or the
Right.
auditorium or something?
And I don't know how affluent your school district was, but I'm assuming your softball field was outside, not a domed area, so
Yeah.
people could have been by and seen said incident happen and him just throwing himself up against the wall or out
Yeah.
there by
Well,
himself.
yeah, no, at this end, not real, because the fields were way at the back of the school, and there was no major road or anything. It was totally in the back, so that's probably why he did choose that area. Because first thing in the morning, there's nobody back there. Everybody's using the front of the school. The buses didn't go back. There was nothing that went back there during that time.
Uh,
It's not-
I don't have words, Kelly, because I
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say I'm almost speechless. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, 3 months. Well, 3 months on the job. All right, here we go.
Yeah, and you figure this out.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
And the
year
fact that
2
you're
was
still in athletic administration deserves a lot of applause.
yeah.
I know.
So year 2 was definitely easier for you.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, how could it get worse? I guess
Right.
that's the question.
Right. Start with the worst, and it's only been better ever since.
You said that guy hired you, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I mean, so your familiarity with the place was him.
Hmm.
Your comfort level was him, and then this took a quick turn for you too.
Is it? Yeah. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate it. Yeah.
I mean, I guess
I'm sorry to
my
laugh.
question would be, if you had a chance to talk to him now, what would that conversation be?
What the hell were you thinking? That's probably what it would be. I mean, seriously, who does what you did?
Right.
You know?
And I'm still wrapping my mind around. You said he was a pastor too. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe in second chances. I believe that's important, and we all mess up. I get all that. I understand forgiveness and what that is, but
Right.
man, how is that? How do you get to that point and say, okay, I'm gonna go stand in the pulpit and try to tell other people how to live?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It was just very strange channel events. It was.
I mean, we got a buddy in Virginia that was been on this podcast, and maybe he could go find this guy. Maybe we could set up a conversation.
There you go.
He'd even facilitate it if you want.
Paradox special
That's
edition.
right. Let me ask him that question.
I just like to have that conversation just to hear you say, "What in the world are you doing? Or why would you do that?"
Exactly.
I'm just envisioning this conversation. He's like, well, you see, it just wouldn't go well.
No, it wouldn't.
I mean, clearly he got to that mindset where he was like, "This is the best idea right now."
Yeah.
This is gonna. I mean, you have to think that once word got out that your career, probably as an educator, was not going to be continuing.
Hmm.
But you want to think about. I mean, especially today's days and age. Why would they not reach out for help, some counseling, some discussion of, "Hey, Kelly, could I just talk to you about the situation on Facebook?"
Right. Sure.
Maybe reach out to somebody, and people don't do that even now. And I
Right.
guess
Well,
that's
this was a long time ago, though, right, Kelly? Because you said
Yeah, it was.
VHS, so
It was.
a
This
bit
was.
ago.
This was 03, 2003. My first. Yeah.
I mean, I think that is also true today, that kids don't reach out, coaches don't reach out, especially in this world that we've dealt with since COVID. I think
Right.
the mental health side of things, we're not going to see the full ramifications of this for a while. But we deal with coaches whose seasons ended. We deal with students whose seasons ended, and maybe they're not reaching out. This is a classic example of somebody who didn't reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, I need some help."
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Kelly, we've heard some humdingers on
I don't know how many times we've been left speechless, though. Like, this is
Right. Yeah.
that's something.
Yeah. That's how it started.
the fact that they called you because it was on the softball field. I mean,
Yeah.
that just blows my mind. It's not like a game was going on.
Like I'm the only one that. Like I'm the only one that had a key to the gate. Coach Lewis, can you come out to the softball field? We need the gate open. I was like, okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was just on our football field today, and it wasn't anything like this, but I guess it's the same. If something happens, they call me. "Hey, Dustin, I need somebody to unlock this gate."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. But I've never had somebody call me and say, "Hey, your principal's out here and got roughed up a little bit."
Yeah. Come help.
Yeah.
Okay. Be right there.
Anytime Kelly gets called out to the softball field, he's like, why?
Exactly.
Tell me why. I'm not
A little
coming.
more detail now.
What do you need out there?
Let me know what I'm walking into here, because
No doubt.
maybe having some PTSD now. Anytime that radio calls, "Hey, Coach Lewis, can you get out here?"
Exactly. Yes. No doubt.
Unfortunately, since then, there hasn't been a situation like that. It's been, I mean, that's maybe as extreme as it can get. I would hope, for your sake, that
Yes.
you haven't had to deal with anything like that.
Yeah. No. Nothing that extreme since then. So yeah. Exactly.
I mean, Kelly, we wanted to set the bar high, but sweet Moses, I don't know if anybody can reach this because this was a whole different level of. I mean,
Well, I'm trying. I always like to find the positive in everything, right? So like you, like
Kelly
you
is
could
still
make you.
employed in athletic administration. That's
I
a
know.
positive.
That's
Well,
right.
in that first year, like you really couldn't do anything that was going to be worse or wrong. Like any of your little mistakes weren't going to seem like that
Correct.
big of mistakes
Yeah.
after that. You kind of had like a free
Yeah.
card that
You had
year
a free
to learn.
pass. Free pass for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this over 20 years, and I don't know that I would have reacted any differently.
Right.
I mean, in reality, I mean, everybody's got 2020 in hindsight. They can look back on and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." Well, you didn't know that information at the time,
Right.
but
Exactly.
for you to be able to not just stay in athletic administration, but stay in athletic administration at that school. I mean, I'm sure May couldn't get here soon enough for you in that situation because I'm assuming this was November-ish, December when
Yep.
the basketball season was getting going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, man, that countdown to May is quick.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And the principal they put into place, he was a middle school principal, never been in a high school. So then it was teaching him, all right, high school athletics is just a little bit different than middle school athletics.
Just a tad.
So then it was, trying to bring him up to speed. And I'm just like, so when I had the opportunity to go back to the school where I was coaching, I was like, call my principal, let him know you're bringing me back. And I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow.
Not your former principal. The current principal.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think he was a reference for anybody moving forward.
No, not him.
So, if your campus or your softball field was at the back of campus, I mean, I'm assuming ambulance had easy access to be able to get back there and such, but I mean, I can imagine the legit concern that everybody had that, hey, we got to call 911 in order to get him up there, even if it was just scratches on the arm or his ribs were hurting. You don't know about internal bleeding or whatever.
Right.
You can't see that stuff. But I'm assuming the alarm was not just for you, but everybody was on high alert, just trying to make sure he was safe and make sure that he was okay and get him medical treatment.
Right. Correct. And it was the back of school, and that's where the student parking lot was. So yeah, it was easy access for all of that. But the concern, because it comes in the front of the school and has to go around the back, and students, then it's like, what's going on? What's happening? Yeah, it was an event, all day event, that's for sure.
So what was the conversation like with the kids and teachers moving forward? I know you said it was wrapped up and they came in and said he won't be here anymore, but at some point you had to communicate with kids to say, hey, here's what transpired. The principal's off in the hospital. Well, I'm assuming that had to happen. Maybe it didn't, but I would assume that would have to be a conversation that was had.
Yeah, it was. It was a conversation that was had because the media then picked it up because his story, and then his story got out, and so then the media picked it up, and so you had to meet with the students, and I think it was maybe the next day in the morning. It was a smaller school, and we were able to pull them in, and speak with them and let them know. It was very limited information because how school districts are. They're only going to give you what they want you to know and what they want you to tell. So the district spokesperson came out and spoke to the staff and the students, and then they provided updates as they could, and then when it all came out, it's in the media, and the kids read that just like the adults do, and you can't answer all the questions as to why, because the adults in the building, we really didn't know why he did what he did. You just try to comfort them and let them know things are gonna be okay, and there's people here that are gonna be able to still, make this a good school year and a positive experience, because it's the third year open, so it was only like the second senior class, so it was only like the second graduating class, and we just tried to rebound from it, and I had the best school year that we could to get through.
I guess was there a sufficient answer for why? or what? I mean,
No, I don't think so.
And they
I don't think so. They were kind of left to make their own conclusions, I guess.
and I feel like there would have been like a lot, Dustin, you touched upon how like you're out there and you got to get the ambulance out there and make sure he's okay and he's safe. But like my mind would have been like, if there's a gang of people, kids running around that are this angry, like what about all the kids at the school? Like I think I probably would have like had like a shelter in place type of lockdown at the school or something to make sure the
Right.
kids were safe. Um, I'm not sure how North Carolina schools are, but like here in Florida, schools are outdoors. All campuses are outdoors and they have gates around them, but they're outdoors. So that would have been a concern. Definitely is
Right.
like, let's get our kids safe because we don't know where any of these people
Right.
are. They're not
Sure.
at this softball field. So
Right.
where are they?
Right. Yeah.
And that would have
Well,
been an issue too.
it was a new school, so it was all under one building. So that was the good thing. And we were largest school system in the state at that time. The school system I was in, so they had their own police department within the school.
Oh, wow.
So they were able to send out a lot of additional resources to the school, just because they have their own police department with a chief and everything. So,
well,
so it's a
I would have
large school
thought, not just for kids, but I mean, if I'm Kelly, I'm thinking, okay, this joker hired me.
system.
So am I part of this? Am I part of this plan? Are they going to try to come after me? Or are they
I
going
was
to
just
get our troopers or whatever?
I was just at art of being nice to everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good plan.
Good plan. That's right.
This morning, hey, how are you? I could just see turn on the
Exactly.
kindness.
Yep, exactly. Kill them with kindness. Everybody. Everybody. How you doing that? Right? Yep.
Let me get that door for you, whatever it takes. I mean,
That's right.
what a great response. I wasn't expecting that, Kelly.
Started being nice to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, maybe except that guy.
Right.
Well,
The cause of it all. I mean,
Right.
I can imagine even, okay, word does get out. Let's say 3 weeks happen, go by or whatever that time frame was. What the water cooler talk was amongst faculty and teachers and staff at the high school level, thinking, right, did this really just happen? And I don't know if Punked was around then, if that was, an episode that Ashton Kutcher was doing or something, but did that really just happen to us was probably something that was said a few times around the old water cooler.
No question. No question. And, you never got, and a lot of people probably never got, the closure that they wanted, because like we said, school districts, they're only going to tell you what they want you to know. So it was as little information as possible.
Well, and some of that faculty probably would have given the finger up it sign as quick as they could, just to say, they were already having issues with him anyway, the
Right.
plagiarism, and they were calling him out on it. But this was just icing on the cake, and then they say, "All right, good riddance. Let's get the new one in." And
Right.
go,
Exactly.
and we got school to.
Yep.
That's probably the thing that when these things happen, and you think about. I'm not going to say this is at the same level of 9/11 or anything like that, but how sports brings people back together.
Hmm.
And so when we had 9/11, everybody's wondering when the next baseball game is going to be, and how are we going to continue? Are we going to play football? Are we not going to play football? And you made the decision,
Right.
and this was, I guess, after 9/11 happened, because that
It
was
just happened 03, so it only been not just 2 years afterwards.
right.
Mhm.
So everybody on that in that time frame was like, hey, we just got to make sure that we're careful. We pump the brakes, and we don't want to put something out there too soon. We don't want to get in an environment that is too soon. Because when COVID happened around here, everybody just started canceling everything and
Right.
just say, hey, we'll figure this out and then resume sports at some point, which we never did. We say
Right.
they took the longest spring break ever in Arkansas because we didn't start again until the fall. We stopped in March and then took spring break until August of the next year. But it's amazing how we put things on pause, and that's what you did. Hey, we're just going to cancel the game. The game isn't worth this.
Right.
let's be safe. Let's make sure everything. Let's get all the details we can. And had you know that this was self-inflicted, you might have just said, "Yeah, let's play the game, but let's move it to today."
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. No doubt. Absolutely.
Wow. I'm just Kelly. You got me at a loss, brother.
Mm.
I mean,
Totally not my intentions.
This is my true reaction. I just don't know what to say. I mean,
Yeah, Kelly did not warn us of what he was going to tell us. This was our real reaction.
What I think I want to do is, I'm thinking in our next cohort call, I want to bring this up and just say, hey, Kelly he's just the silent guy that kind of sits back there, but boy, does he have a story.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of years of experience in that cohort. I do a lot of taking in on those calls.
Yeah. But the same thing when I did last year. I was like a sponge, just learning from people all around that are different. Right. But man, Kelly, I don't know if anybody can match this story.
I mean, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I don't know that you want to be applauded for that, but I'm applauding you because that is something that I did not see coming. I'm sure you didn't see coming in the middle of that mess, but I mean,
I did not expect you to say that at all.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just another example of, this had nothing to do with you or athletics, but it was directly affected you and your athletic team.
Right.
So,
right. I mean, it says right there, untold stories. So, I mean, I hope maybe I met the standard there.
Well, I also think that we talked about this in numerous episodes. You don't have a plan for this.
No.
You don't have a plan for a principal, at your point, a principal who looks like he's injured, looks like it may be gang related just based off the story. What do you got to do? You got to take care of the situation, and you just do that. Well, you don't have an emergency action plan that details that out.
Right.
And so, Daryl Nance, who you mentioned earlier, said our job is often reactionary. We just got to react to whatever comes at us. We may have a plan and try to be proactive, but you don't have a plan for something like this.
No.
And so you operate off the limited information that you have. You make the best decision, and then, I may be questioning some things if I get called out to something like this. Just be like, hey, wait a minute. I know Kelly Lewis, and I know what he went through. Does this pass the litmus test of being true?
Well, this is exactly, what the whole reason for our podcast, right? Like, we want to think about the things that you never thought of. So you can have a plan or some sort of thought in your brain for when this happens, and you don't feel so alone. But this is you don't expect role models to behave in such a way.
No, yeah. So on your next interviews, you're kind of interviewing the principal, just like the principal's interviewing you.
Look at that, a whole different way.
See if I can get a good feel for this person.
Yeah. You might want to find out if there's any related. Just check his arms and see her arms.
Yep.
What I really appreciate is I sent Kelly a message and just said, hey, would you be interested in being a guest on the show? And he jumped at the chance, said, yeah, I'd love to do it. It was kind of a maiden voyage for him to try to be on a podcast. And man, I'm glad you jumped on this. You took a chance on us, and we said, okay, but you caught me with a sucker punch I wasn't expecting. And I applaud you for that. But I appreciate you jumping on here with us and spending some time and telling this story, as painful as it may be for you, but just to tell us, man, that when we created this podcast, it was to say we can't plan for everything that happens, but things happen.
Right.
Stuff happens in our life. Crap happens as ADs, and we just got to deal with it. And certainly, you got dealt with a big old mess of crap there.
Yeah.
Year one. Year one.
No doubt. Year one.
3 months in.
That wasn't even a full year.
Not even the tail end of it. Here's the start of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree. I can't, say thank you enough for jumping on here and sharing on that story with us. And I'm still speechless of how somebody could think that you're working in, public education, and you think that that's an okay way to behave, and it is not. And once again, ADs are the ones stuck cleaning it up. So
Right.
kudos to you for sticking to your grounds. And even now, however many years, 20 years, 10 years later, where you're saying, I still made the right call knowing the information that I had. But yeah,
Oh
kudos
yeah,
to you
yeah.
for sharing that
Yeah,
with us.
I wouldn't have changed anything about about that situation with like Dustin said, with the information that we had at the time.
But
Yeah, exactly.
here's what I know: this was our first trip to North Carolina, but the bar is high. I mean, some people have to really jump up their game to try to match this story. So, Kelly, man, thanks for setting that bar high. Thanks for jumping in here, and I appreciate you taking the chance on us to spend some time. I know your time is valuable, and you got things you've got planned and scheduled that you got to do. So, thank you for cutting out time and spending with us.
Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners. And thank you to Take It Spigot, who sponsors all of our episodes. And we will be back next week.